lobbying is something that's going on all the time. Depends how you define lobbying. When I first entered Parliament in 1970, I won't say lobbying was in its infancy, because lobbying goes back to the 19th century before, but there was less organised lobbying. People would come to the central lobby of Parliament to lobby their members of Parliament on individual issues or on matters of social concern or on general issues of taxation or whatever. But it was, to say there was no orchestrated lobbying at that stage would be to tell a downright lie. Of course there was, but it was much less sophisticated and much less organised than it is now. There are now dozens of companies that depend upon lobbying for their very existence. There are all sorts of pressure groups and interest groups that employ professional lobbyists to work on their behalf and to seek to capture the attention first and the support second of members of Parliament and members of the House of Lords. There is lobbying going on all the time on almost every subject. Now, this is fine up to a point.
We do have very strict rules, of course, about not being involved with any group where we are getting paid or where we are getting some privileges, and then trying to push that cause in Parliament. Because obviously I think that would be seen to be corrupt and quite wrong.
There is a lot of lobbying in Britain, certainly much more than there used to be, but not as much as you would expect, for example, in the United States. And the reason is quite simple. In the United States, Congress, the elected part of the system, is quite separate from the President, from the government of the United States, and therefore members of Congress are much more independent, but their votes are required to finance any government project. So it's worth lobbying them, and that becomes a pretty intensive part of the American political system. In the United Kingdom there is lobbying, but the role of members of Parliament is different. The government is only the government, unlike the United States, because it has a majority within the elected chamber, within Parliament itself. And so in order for that government to be able to govern, there has to be more of a disciplined system of people being expected to support the party, unless they have strong reasons of conscience or other reasons why occasionally they decline to do so. So it's against that background that lobbying has become much more significant, but I think the lobbyists themselves realize that it's the political parties you have to persuade. The individual member of Parliament makes a contribution to that collective view, but the individual member of Parliament I would not claim is as powerful as an individual senator in the United States would be in comparison.